Water pipe smoking among college students in the United States. Review of literature. Abstract. Review. Abstract was directed to review the literature on college student water pipe use with the focus of undergraduates in the United States. Participants, undergraduate students, methods. Studies were were accessed were, were assessed using the databases PubMed, Medline, PsycInfo, and Academic Search Premier. Searches included combinations of the following keywords: water pipe, hookah, shisha, nar, gila, earlier, hubble bubble, college, university, and student results. Demonstrate demonstrate that approximately 1 in 5 American college students report past year water pipe use. Results also suggest that there are a number of established correlates of water pipe smoking, including no gender, Arab ethnicity, cigarette smoking, and a brief that water pipe smoking is less harmful than cigarette smoking. Conclusions. Despite the harmful effects, water pipe smoking is quite common among college students. Future research with better methodologies and theoretical frameworks are needed to advance the field. Water pipe, also really called hookah, shisha, artia, and hubble bubble, is a 400-year-old form of smoking in which tobacco is heated with charcoal and its smoke is passed through a water prior to inhalation. The typical water pipe contains a head filled with tobacco, a glass bowl filled with water, and hose for inhaling or pumping the water pipe, traditionally associated with Middle Eastern cultures. However, in recent years, its use is spread to North America and Europe. Like all forms of tobacco use, water pipe smoking increases the risk of a variety of adverse health outcomes. More specifically, its use has been associated with esophageal cancer, chromosome abbreviations, decreased pulmonary and cardiovascular function, low birth weight, infertility, dental problems, and infectious diseases. Water pipe smokers have have also been known to report symptoms of tobacco dependence, including craving and repeated quit attempts. However, despite their helpful outcomes, there has been a distinct increase in popularity of water pipe use, particularly in the Middle East, where in some cultures, lifetime prevalence rates are as high as 70%. Water pipe smoking is particularly prevalent among university students and other young adults. There are several factors that account for this. First, water pipe tobacco is relatively ineffective and fact touted by many water pipe forums and websites. Second, unlike tobacco products, water pipe tobacco can be purchased online, making it particularly accessible to university students who are likely to have the internet access. Moreover, many water pipe websites do not verify age, a fact that many attract underage smokers. Third, water pipe smoking has become integrated into the social scheme at many university campuses. There has been a notable rise in number of hookah bars and water pipe cafes near college campuses. Many students cite socialization as a primary motivation for water pipe use. Fourth, in 1990s, a new form of sweetened water pipe tobacco called Masasol was introduced. Masasol is produced in a variety of flavors: fruit, toffee, coffee, etc., and tends to be more appealing to young adults than the unflavored tobacco traditionally used in water pipe. Finally, many young adults mistakenly believe that water pipes are safer than cigarettes. Examples: the water pipes contain less nicotine, are not addictive, and their use does not constitute smoking. Although the number of individual studies have been documented, the prevalence and correlates of water pipe use among university students there have been There have been no systematic reviews of this literature. The present article aims to fill this gap by examining 1. The prevalence of water pipe smoking among college students, 2. Demographic correlates of water pipe smoking, and 3. Beliefs about water pipe smoking, and 4. Relationships between water pipe smoking and cigarette smoking. We will also review methodological limitations of existing water pipe studies and suggest directions for future research. Table 1. Studies of water pipe use among college students in the United States or Europe. Reporting lifetime smoking. Reporting past year smoking. Reporting past month smoking. Methods. We can identification of studies. We conducted a literature search using the databases PubMed, Medline, Psycinfo, and academic search. Premier studies included combinations of the following keywords: water pipe, hookah, Siska, studies that combine the data of college students and non-college students in analysis were excluded from this review. Studies that also focus on graduate or professional students rather than undergraduates were also excluded. This review primarily focused on college students in the United States. However, data from the Middle Eastern students are also presented throughout the article for comparison purposes. We identified 16 studies of the college student water pipe smoking that use 14 different samples. All 16 studies have been published since 2001. 7 of the 16 studies examined water pipe smoking among college students in the United States or Europe. Table 1. The remaining 9 studies examined water pipe smoking among the college students in the Middle East. Results. Among studies conducted in the United States or Europe, lifetime water pipe smoke rates range from 15.1% to 40.1%. M equals 30.3, ST equals 10.1. Past year smoking rates range from 12.4 to 30.6. M equals 21.5%. Standard deviation equals 12.9%. And past month smoking tables range from 7.2 to 21.1%. M equals 14.6%. ST equals 6.2%. Table 1. Of the 9 studies examining water pipe use among Middle Eastern college students, lifetime smoking rates range from 43.0% to 61.1%. M equals 49.8%. ST equals 9.9%. None of the Middle Eastern studies reported past year smoking rates. Past month or current smoking rates range from 5.6 to 43.3%. M equals 26.6%. ST equals 14.2%. Table 2. Studies examining water pipe use among college students in the Middle East. Reported lifetime smoking. Reporting past year smoking. Reported past month smoking. Several conclusions can be drawn from these prevalence data. First, rates of water pipe. Use in the United States and Europe are quite high, with approximately 1 in 5 college students reporting past year water pipe smoking. In comparison, approximately 30% of the college students reported past year cigarette smoking, suggesting that although cigarette smoking remains the most popular form of tobacco use among American college students, water pipe smoking is a close second. Second, the limited data that are available suggest that the rates of water pipe smoking among Middle Eastern college students are substantially higher than the rates among Western samples, with approximately 1 in 4 Middle Eastern college students reporting water pipe use during the past months. General differences while in water pipe use, with the exception of the Primac et al. All the studies in this review found that males were more likely than females to report water pipe use. These gender differences were particularly pronounced when examining current as opposed to lifestyle use. For example, Smith, Simone et al. Conducted a cross-sectional internet survey of 491 college freshmen and found that among females, 77.4% were never smokers, 13.6 were ever smokers, and 9.0 were current smokers. In contrast, among males, 67.0 were never smokers, 11.8% were ever smokers, and 21.2 were current smokers or current smokers. Similarity, Maziak et al. Conducted interviews with 587 randomly selected university students in Syria and found that 62.6% of men and 29.8% of women reported lifetime water pipe use, whereas 25.5% men and 4.9% of women reported past month water pipe use. It should be noted that in the United States, there are few reported gender differences in cigarette smoking among college samples. Thus, the factors that make water pipe use more popular among males than females cannot be generalized to all tobacco products. Ethical differences in water pipe use. The two of the studies in this review found that the students of Arab descent attending college in the United States or Europe were significantly more likely than their non-Arab opposed to 11% of Arab students who had used water pipe in lifetime. Similarly, Jackson and AVR found that 81.3% of Arab students had tried the water pipe as compared to 38.1% of white students, 21.6% of black students, and 40.9% of Asian students. No other studies have compared water pipe use among Arab versus non-Arab students outside of the Middle East. All of the remaining American studies found that black students were less likely than other. All of the remaining American studies found that black students were less likely than students of other races to use Waterpipe. All of the study students of other races to use a Waterpipe. For example, Prima et al. Found that 13.3% of black students had smoked Waterpipe as compared with 31.4% of white students, 23.2% of Asian students, and 33.2% of students who identified as other or mixed. Similarly, Eisenberg et al. Found that 35.5% of white students, 9.1% of black students, and 33.7% of students identifying as other reported a past 30-day Waterpipe use. These data are consistent with broader literature on race and substance abuse, which suggests that black college students. These data are consistent with the broader literature on race and substance abuse, which suggests that black college students are less likely than their white counterparts to smoke cigarettes or to use alcohol. Brief beliefs about water. Beliefs about waterpipe smoking. 5 studies examined beliefs about waterpipe smoking among Americans and European college students. Overall, these studies suggested that college students perceive waterpipe to be less harmful and more socially acceptable than cigarette use. For example, Smith, Smimon et al. Conducted across a sectional internet survey of 411 freshmen at a private university and found that the students believed waterpipe smoking to be less than addicting and more socially acceptable than cigarette smoking. Students also believed that they were more likely to be influenced by friends to use waterpipe as opposed to cigarettes. In the next year, and that friends looked cooler when using water pipes versus cigarettes. Using the same example, Smith et al. Found that 37% of students perceive water pipe use to be less harmful than cigarette use. In addition to current odds ratio equals 6.77 and lifetime OR equals 3.19. Water pipe smokers were more likely than never smokers to receive water pipe as less harmful than cigarette use, suggesting that the beliefs about water pipe harmfulness may play a role in initiation and or maintenance of smoking. Patrick et al. Set an online survey to 3,600 randomly selected university students as part of a national college health assessment. The researchers paid to have waterpipe questions added to their university vision of the survey. Data from the 647 students were responded indicated that more than half of the sample, 52%, believed waterpipe smoking to be less than addictive than cigarette smoking. In addition, multi-iterative models reveal association between past year waterpipe use, yes, no, and 1, low perceived harm, believing waterpipe smoking is less than harmful than cigarette smoking. OR equals 2.54. 2, low perceived addictiveness, believing waterpipe smoking is less addictive than cigarette smoking, or equals 4.64. 3, perception of high social acceptability, believing that waterpipe smoking is socially acceptable among peers. OR equals 20.0. And 4, high perception of popularity, believing that a large percentage of college students have smoked a waterpipe. OR equals 4.72. Eisenberg et al. Concluded an online survey of waterpipe use among 744 college freshmen enrolled in introductory psychology courses. Compared with non-smokers, those who had smoked in the past month were more likely to believe that 1. Waterpipe smoking is socially acceptable among peers. 2. Waterpipe smoking makes peers look cool. 3. Waterpipe are, are, are less harmful than cigarettes. 4. Waterpipes are less addicting than cigarettes. Finally, Jackson and Aviard administered a cross-sectional paper and pencil questionnaire to 937 students in randomly selected courses of Birmingham University in the United Kingdom. They then sent a follow-up survey to the 75 students who reported at least monthly Waterpipe use. 21 of the 75 users responded to the follow-up survey. About one of these heavy use users considered Waterpipe smoking to be socially acceptable, and 68.4% thought that the Waterpipe smoking was less harmful than cigarette smoking. Association between Waterpipe smoking and cigarette smoking. 4 studies have examined relationships between the Waterpipe smoking and cigarette smoking among American and European college students, and all 4 have found significant association between the two forms of tobacco use. For example, Eisenberg et al. Found that the past month, Waterpipe use was associated with a greater likelihood of having smoked cigarettes, OR, and cigars, or OR 6.4. Similarly, Gretkin and found the cigarette users were twice as likely as non-cigarette users to report lifetime Waterpipe use. Strong cigarette Waterpipe associations have been found in studies of Middle Eastern college students. To date, however, no studies have longitudinally assessed cigarette versus Waterpipe trajectories. Thus, it is unclear whether cigarette use typically precedes or follows Waterpipe use, or whether Waterpipe use is more frequent or intense among students who simultaneously use cigarettes. It is also important to note that although cigarette smoking is a robust correlate of Waterpipe use, a substantial portion of Waterpipe users do not smoke cigarettes. For example, Primack et al. Found that 35.4% of students who had smoked a Waterpipe in the past year had never smoked a cigarette. Similarly, Jackson and Aviard found that 65% of regular, at least monthly Waterpipe smokers have never smoked cigarettes. It is not clear what factors are associated with the exclusive of Waterpipe. Example, Waterpipe use in the absence of cigarette smoking. However, preliminary data suggests that 2 points of tobacco have different correlates. For example, male gender seems to be predictive of Waterpipe, but not cigarette use. Similarity, club and intramural and athletic participation appears to protect against cigarette smoking, but not Waterpipe smoking. These data suggest that the Waterpipes and cigarettes are viewed differently by different groups of people. However, more data is needed to delineate common and unique factors for the two types of tobacco products. Comment: Future directions / limitations. The literature of Waterpipe smoking among college students has grown rapidly over the past 10 years. However, there are relatively few studies in the area, and many potential Waterpipe smoking predictors have not been examined. Example: peer smoking, smoking expectancy, smoking motives, alcohol, drug, or comorbidity, anxiety, depression, stress, etc. In addition, there are several methodological limitations that limit our study to draw conclusions about the college student Waterpipe use. First, most extinguishing Waterpipe studies use data from convenience. Example: introduction and introductory psychology students, rather than representative samples. In addition to the few studies that attempt to recruit representative samples suffer from the low response rates. For example, Pramack et al. Sent an online survey to 3,600 randomly selected university students at the National College Health Assessment. However, only 18.6 of the recruited students completed the survey. Notably, there are often important differences between survey responders and non-responders, and it is therefore difficult to generalize from existing data to the broader population of college student Waterpipe smokers. Naturally, representative studies and representative single campus studies are needed to accurately examine the prevalence and correlates of Waterpipe smoking. Second, all existing student Waterpipe studies are cross-sectional rather than longitudinal perspective. As a result, it is unclear which variables precede and predict the development of Waterpipe use. In addition, it is impossible to draw conclusions about typical trajectories of Waterpipe use. Example, does Waterpipe use tend to peak during adolescence and decline throughout the third decade of life, like alcohol and drug use? Third, most student Waterpipe smoking data are based on online surveys rather than interviews or laboratory tasks. Although online surveys are an ideal for assessing certain standardized correlates of Waterpipe use, example, personality, beliefs, attitudes, and demographic information. There are many substance use correlates that cannot be adequately measured with surveys such as neurophysiological functioning, laboratory-based impulsivity, and diagnostic and statistical manual of mental disorder diagnosis. Fourth, no college student Waterpipe studies have examined Waterpipe dependence as opposed to simple quantity and frequency of the use. Waterpipe dependence is fuzzy concept that is difficult to define due to the social intermittent nature of Waterpipe smoking and its high comorbidity with cigarette use. However, several researchers have proposed methods of characterizing Waterpipe dependence, and that at least one factor analyzed scale has been published. Thus, it would be useful for future studies to explore characteristics of Waterpipe dependence among student populations. Fifth, very few college studies have examined interactions between potential predictors of Waterpipe use. It would be useful to know that whether relationships between independent variables and Waterpipe use differ depending on the gender, ethnicity, age, personality, and variety of other variables. Six, no studies have explored the role of culture in the initiation and maintenance of Waterpipe use. More specifically, although set of studies have examined Waterpipe smoking among Middle Eastern students, another set of studies has examined smoking among Western students. No studies have explored differential predictors and correlates of Waterpipe smoking among students. And in Middle Eastern versus Western cultures, this type of international data would provide information about unique cultural context and the support of or inhibit Waterpipe use. Finally, the literature or college student Waterpipe smoking is theoretically theoretical. Theoretical frameworks that explain the current empirical findings and suggest directions for future research would add greatly to the field. Despite the limitations, the existing exercise literature points to a variety of potential Waterpipe smoking interventions of college students. For example, it is clear that college students as a whole and Waterpipe smokers in particular believe that Waterpipe use is less than harmful than regular cigarette use, providing information about the harmful health effects of Waterpipe tobacco. Example, through college counseling centers, peer mentors, student orientation sensations. Example, Many help to decrease its use. It may also be useful to develop targeted intervention programs for those most likely to smoke water pipe. Example, males, cigarette smokers, air students in the United States. Finally, at the societal level, efforts are needed to decrease the accessibility of water pipe tobacco to underage smokers by monitoring online water pipe tobacco availability, water pipe sales to underage smokers. Conclusions: despite its associated with health risks, the prevalence of water pipe smoking among college students is quite high with approximately 1 in 5 students reporting past use. There are also a number of established correlates of water pipe smoking, including male gender, Arab ethnicity, cigarette smoking, and the belief that water pipe smoking is less harmful than that of cigarette smoking. Though integrating the existing literature on college student water pipe smoking is small, and future studies use different methodology and better theological frameworks are needed to advance our knowledge in this area. For comments and further information, address correspondence.